The day I brought Luna home, a sleek black cat from the shelter, I thought I was getting a quiet companion for my quaint countryside home. But Luna was more than just a pet. She seemed to carry with her an air of mystery as deep as her dark fur. At first, Luna was just unusually quiet for a cat, spending hours staring out the windows or tracking something across the room with her eyes that I couldn't see. I chalked it up to her adjusting to a new home, but her behavior grew more peculiar with each passing night. It started with her fixating on the basement door. Every evening as the sun set, she would sit in front of the door, her gaze fixed on the slight gap beneath it as if watching something move back and forth. I listened closely several times, but never heard anything myself. Eventually, curiosity got the better of me, and one night, I decided to open the basement door to let her explore, thinking perhaps a mouse or some critter had caught her attention. Luna darted down the stairs the moment the door opened, her black silhouette disappearing into the darkness below. Hesitantly, I followed, flicking on the light switch. The bulb flickered dimly, barely illuminating the old, cluttered space. There was no sign of Luna. Instead, the room was filled with an eerie silence that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. As I ventured further, calling softly for Luna, the air grew inexplicably colder. I wrapped my arms around myself, scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. Suddenly, a soft whisper broke the silence. "Leave!" It hissed, sending a chill down my spine. Startled, I whipped around, searching for the source of the voice. Just then, Luna reappeared from behind an old, dusty trunk, her eyes wide and alert. She seemed unfazed by the whisper, but it was clear she wanted to leave the basement as she quickly raced upstairs. I followed Luna, closing the basement door firmly behind me. I tried to convince myself it was just the wind or the old house settling, but the whisper lingered in my mind, unsettling me. The next few nights, Luna avoided the basement door entirely, instead choosing to sleep curled up at the foot of my bed. But the peace didn't last. Each night, just after midnight, the whispers began anew. This time, they weren't confined to the basement. They seemed to drift through the house, always fleeting, always chilling. Luna would perk up, her ears twitching in response, then settle back down, seemingly unbothered. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I contacted a local medium, someone known for dealing with these sorts of issues, hoping she could offer some explanation or help. When she arrived, Luna immediately took to her, as if recognizing an ally. As we stood by the basement door, the medium listened intently, then nodded slowly. "There's a presence in your home," she explained. "It seems to be tied to something below in the basement. Your cat senses it too, but it's not harmful to her. However, it wants to be heard. It wants you to know it's here." We ventured down together, the medium and I, with Luna trailing behind us. In the basement, the medium performed a cleansing ritual, speaking softly to whatever resided there, urging it to rest. The whispers stopped, and a sense of calm settled over the house. Luna hasn't stared at the basement door since that day, and for a while, the nights returned to their peaceful silence. The medium assured me the spirit had been appeased, perhaps even moved on. I felt a wave of relief wash over me, believing the eerie whispers and the cold presence in the basement were gone for good. However, a few weeks later, during a stormy night, the tranquility was abruptly shattered. As thunder rumbled overhead, Luna suddenly leapt up from where she was sleeping at the foot of my bed and darted out of the room. Her sudden agitation startled me awake, and I listened intently, my senses heightened. Amidst the sound of the rain and thunder, I heard it again, the faintest whisper, just like before, but this time it was different, urgent, almost angry. "Luna," it called out, weaving through the howling wind with an unnatural clarity. I rushed downstairs, my heart pounding in my chest. The basement door was ajar, slowly creaking back and forth as if swayed by an unseen force. Luna was nowhere to be seen. I called out to her, my voice drowned out by another crack of thunder. Summoning every ounce of courage, I approached the basement, the air growing colder with each step. As I reached for the door, a chilling gust of wind blew through the house, extinguishing all the lights. In the pitch blackness, I felt a presence pass by me, a whisper brushing against my ear, "Never alone." When the lights flickered back on, Luna was sitting calmly at the top of the basement stairs, her eyes fixed on the shadows below as if watching something move in the darkness. The medium's words echoed in my mind, a spirit not harmful but wanting to be heard. It seemed the cleansing had not banished the spirit but had instead stirred it, awakened something that had been dormant. Now, every time a storm rolls in, Luna and I wait, listening to the whispers that seem to speak directly to her. A reminder that some presences are too rooted to be easily dismissed. The house, with all its eerie charm, holds secrets that refuse to be silenced, and Luna, ever watchful, seems to understand far more than I could ever hope to. When I brought Max, a sturdy German shepherd, home from the local shelter, I was looking for a bit of security. I felt lonely in the old farmhouse I'd recently moved into, and the nights were too silent for comfort. Max seemed like the perfect antidote, a loyal guard dog with a gentle heart. The first few weeks were uneventful, with Max settling in nicely, his presence making the big old house feel more like a home. But then, things started to change as the autumn winds brought longer nights. It started subtly, with Max's behavior changing at night. He'd pace around the house, his eyes often locked on the corners of the living room, growling at shadows only he could see. His discomfort escalated quickly. Soon, he outright refused to set foot in the living room after dark. Then one night, his barking woke me up, a frantic, piercing sound that I had never heard from him before. I stumbled downstairs to find him at the doorway of the living room, barking furiously into the pitch darkness within. When I tried to flick on the light, the bulb popped and fizzled out, plunging us back into blackness. As my eyes adjusted, I caught sight of them, two glowing, unnatural eyes in the corner of the room. They weren't set in a face, but hung in the darkness, suspended in air, watching us. Max was in a frenzy, his body tense, ready to attack whatever was lurking there. I grabbed a flashlight and swung its beam toward the corner, but the eyes vanished, leaving no trace behind. With no sleep and nerves frayed, we spent the rest of the night with every light in the house blazing. The following day, I recounted the events to a friend familiar with local lore. Her face paled as she told me of the house's original owner, a man said never to have left, even in death. I wasn't a believer in ghosts, but nothing else made sense. That night, I decided to confront whatever was in the living room. I set up my camera to record, hoping to catch something, anything, that could explain the situation. Max and I waited in the dark, tense and silent. Hours ticked by until suddenly, the glowing eyes reappeared, more intense than before. They seemed to burn with an inner fire, a malevolent intelligence that felt as if it pierced right through us. Max barked and charged, but I held him back, my heart hammering as I approached. This time, the flashlight beam caught the figure fully. It was a man, or the ghost of one. His face twisted in a silent scream, eyes burning with a sorrow so profound it was terrifying. He reached out towards us, his hand passing through the beam of light, distorting as if made of smoke. Then, just as suddenly, he vanished. Shaken, I reviewed the camera footage. The image of the ghostly figure burned into my mind. But as I watched, I noticed something even more chilling. Each time the figure appeared, Max's shadow on the wall didn't match his actions. Instead, his shadow seemed to stand upright, mimicking the figure's movements. It dawned on me then, the ghost wasn't haunting the house, it was haunting Max. The realization hit me like a wave. Max had been the medium, not the house. We left the farmhouse the next day, but even now, in our new home, I sometimes catch Max watching corners with wary eyes, and at night, when shadows fall a certain way, I see those two glowing eyes in the darkness, watching and always watching. When I found Jasper, a small, wiry-haired terrier, he was cowering under a car, his body trembling. I took him home from the streets, not realizing I was bringing something else along with him. My apartment, a cozy two-bedroom place in a quiet suburb, had always been my sanctuary, but with Jasper's arrival, a sense of unease began to creep into its corners. At first, Jasper seemed just grateful to have a home, his tail wagging any time I came near. But as the days passed, he started acting strangely. He would stare intently at the empty hallway leading to my bedroom, his body stiffening as if hearing something I couldn't. Sometimes, late at night, I would wake up to find him growling softly, his gaze fixed on the closed closet door. One evening, the pattern changed. Jasper began to bark furiously at the closet, more aggressive than anything I had seen from him. Concerned, I opened the closet to show him there was nothing there. But as the door swung open, I felt a cold draft and heard a faint whisper, like someone sighing heavily. From that night on, Jasper refused to go near the closet. He'd skirt around it, his ears flattened, a whimper in his throat whenever we passed. The apartment's air grew heavy, charged with a tension that made it hard to breathe. I decided it was time to dig a little deeper. I needed to understand what was tormenting Jasper. I contacted the local shelter where I'd reported finding Jasper, asking about any history or previous reports concerning him. The worker hesitated before telling me that Jasper had been picked up near an old, abandoned property rumored to be haunted. Locals said it was cursed, the site of a tragic, unsolved mystery involving the disappearance of its last owner. Armed with this knowledge, I turned to a local psychic who specialized in animal communications. When she met Jasper, she was immediately taken aback. After a few moments of silence, connecting with Jasper in ways I couldn't comprehend, she turned to me with a grave look. "Your dog is sensitive to spirits," she explained. "He senses the presence of someone who once lived here, in your apartment before you. This spirit is confused, lost, not understanding they've passed. Jasper hears them, feels their sadness." That night, guided by the psychic, I opened the closet again, Jasper by my side. We called out to the spirit, acknowledging their presence and offering peace. The psychic chanted softly, her words a soothing balm in the chilling darkness. As she spoke, the temperature in the room dropped, and the whispering grew louder, more coherent. "Thank you," it breathed, just loud enough for me to catch. Then, just as suddenly, the air lightened, the oppressive feeling lifting. We thought it was over, that we had helped a lost soul find their way. But the next night, as I lay in bed, I heard it again, the whispering. Only this time, it wasn't just sad, it was angry. The closet door creaked open by itself, and Jasper, who had been lying quietly at the foot of my bed, started to growl, his eyes reflecting a flicker of movement in the dark. The psychic had been wrong. We hadn't freed his spirit, we had angered it. Now, it knew I could hear it too. Jasper and I listen closely now, unsure if we are alone. The whisper's a constant murmur in the background of our lives, reminding us that some doors, once opened, can never be closed.